So think about this. You're walking, and every time you're walking, you're making little tiny fractures in the bones and little tears in the fibers of your ligaments and tendons. And that's going on all the time. Everybody does it. It's always happening. You're breaking blood vessels. All this damage is being done just because you're using it. It's like just if you're driving your car, you're doing damage to your car. Even no matter how carefully you're driving, you're still wearing out the tires, wearing out the engine. The engine's getting hot. Things are breaking down just because they're being used. That's the nature of the world we live in. But your body is doing the same thing. But what has to happen is your body has to repair.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. How are we doing? Welcome to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. Joe Barton here with my lovely bride, Amanda, is joining us. We are driving out west to the Black Hills of beautiful South Dakota after a quite busy prior month and a half. We just had our son got married on Saturday, and it was amazing. We had a beautiful wedding. Leslie and Dr. Saunders were both there to celebrate with us, which was great. And couldn't have asked for a better everything. It was just awesome. So, and now we're gonna go relax a little bit, enjoy some time away together, unwinding, enjoying the beauty of God's creation. And so I hope you're having a great day. Dr. Saunders is also enjoying a little R&R, as you'll see with his awesome vacation shirt he's wearing and background.
No, it's a real background. It's not one of those fake backgrounds.
Where are you right now, Dr. Saunders?
I am on Liberty Lake, which is near Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Okay.
Spokane, Washington, kind of in between.
Okay. I'm not on vacation, but I am in my office. And it's okay. This is a real background. Anyway, welcome everyone to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. Thanks for joining us. I believe we're on episode 151 already. And those of you who are new on this webinar, we talk about type 2 diabetes. We try to talk about different subjects. We have people type in their questions and answer as many of those as we can. And man, we learn so much on these webinars from Dr. Saunders. So I'm always so thankful for them. And I get lots and lots of emails from many of you who are very appreciative of this webinar as well. So before we get started though with today's topic, Dr. Saunders, would you mind giving us a disclaimer?
Okay. The information that we give here is general information applicable to a large audience, hopefully. So even when you ask a specific question, remember, I'm going to be giving general answers that'll apply to everybody. And I'll try to address that specific concern. But the application of that information has to be done by each one of you individually, depending on, with you and your professional that you're working with, ideally.
All right, awesome. Okay, so we kind of were mapping out some of our topics for the next week, and this was one of them that came, or for the next week, for the next month. And this is one that came up because someone that I care about was diagnosed as having this Charcot foot, I believe is how you pronounce it. And yes. It was something that I am not familiar with, but apparently is more common than I realized. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today, how that ties into type 2. And I'm just excited to learn more about that. So in the meantime, while we're talking, if you have questions, feel free to post those in the Q&A. And you know what? I'm going to check my chat and make sure that that was working today. I don't know that it is, but maybe someone can try to say hi in the chat and see if that works. Hasn't worked for a couple of weeks, but let's go ahead and get started. Charcot foot. Tell us all the things, Dr. Saunders.
Okay, so Charcot foot is not specific to diabetes. In other words, it's not only with diabetes, but it's a very common problem with people who have diabetes. The problem is when the nervous system is not functioning properly, then you don't get good blood flow to the tendons and ligaments and bones and nerves. And so it starts out really with blood flow. When you have type 2 diabetes, and there's other issues that can cause this too. When you have type 2, the blood vessels constrict and it doesn't allow blood to flow through there very well. So you don't repair things. So think about this, you're walking, and every time you're walking, you're making little tiny fractures in the bones and little tears in the fibers of your ligaments and tendons. And that's going on all the time. Everybody does it. It's always happening. You're breaking blood vessels. This damage is being done just because you're using it. You know, it's like just if you're driving your car, you're doing damage to your car. Even no matter how carefully you're driving, you're still wearing out the tires, wearing out the engine. The engine's getting hot. You know, things are breaking down just because they're being used. That's the nature of the world we live in. But your body is doing the same thing. But what has to happen is your body has to repair. So every night we do what's called the 6-10 reset. In the 6-10 reset, you stop eating by 6, you go to bed by 10 with an empty stomach, so that you can repair. You go into anabolic mode, and that initiates the repair process. Well, what happens when you have type 2 and you don't have good circulation, even if you do go to bed by 10 and with an empty stomach, if you don't have good circulation to that area, you don't repair things very well. So you make little tears, and then you make the next day you make another little tear, and the next day you make another little tear, and then it gets weaker and weaker. And what happens is you have this ligament that holds your foot up, and it's called an arch. You have an arch in your foot, and there's a ligament that goes across that holds it up, and it holds it together and allows it to be springy, so it can spring. Well, what happens in Charcot joint is the entire weight of your ankle, your leg bones, pushes down and stretches the ligament, and the ligament's not repairing anymore. So it just stretches out and it falls down. So it's kind of like you have no spring anymore. And it's very painful to walk on because you don't have that springy thing anymore, that ligament to walk on. There's nothing under there to absorb any shock. And you have the entire weight of your the leg, your body as you step, it's getting all the weight on those points of the bone, and that's 300 pounds per square inch is being put on those, and it can be very painful. It's not something that's not painful unless you have really bad neuropathy. And so some people with diabetes, because they have bad neuropathy, they don't feel it very much because they just don't have any nerves. Their nerves aren't working. It's all numb. And if it's numb, then you're more likely to not feel it. So you can't go by how it feels. The Charcot joint is really just a collapse of that system of the way the foot works. And it's not a fixable problem. It's not like you can just repair that ligament or something. If you don't have the blood flow, it's just not going to work. So the key to this, the really important thing, because we're dealing with type 2 diabetes, is you want to make sure you have good blood flow. You want to make sure you have good circulation in your feet. That's going to protect your nerves. It's going to protect your tendons. It's going to protect your ligaments. It's going to protect your bones. All the repair happens from circulation. If you don't have circulation, you're not getting oxygen, you're not getting nutrients, you're not getting what's needed to repair. So it's not going to happen, even if you do the 6-10 reset, right? So being in anabolic mode isn't enough. You actually have to get the circulation. So one of the things that I recommend is exercising regularly, get the blood sugar down as much as possible. And one of the things that can help prevent this is we've formulated something called Nervala. Nervala is just two vitamins, a vitamin B1, which is called benfotiamine. It's a special kind of B1. Yeah, there it is, Nervala. It's a special kind of vitamin B1 that is fat soluble. So it gets into the cells in the blood vessels, and it helps them repair. They repair what's called the glycocalyx, which is the inside lining that helps things flow really smoothly. And so that's a really important thing. And then we add in there alpha lipoic acid, because that's what gets rid of inflammation. So those two together have been proven in multiple studies to reverse the neuropathy. But at the same time, because you think about why does it reverse neuropathy? Well, because you're getting circulation to it now. The nerves are getting circulation. So you're going to have be able to repair your nerves, and your nerves are going to be able to function. Well, guess what? That same process of restoring the circulation also allows all your tendons and ligaments and bones to repair, so you don't end up with Charcot joint.
Wow, this is really good information. I know we're starting to get some questions that are coming in here as well.
Real quick, I just thought it was fascinating as you explained that, but just thinking about like the human body and how that, like, our body is constantly repairing itself. So it's really not like Nervala that is doing it. Nervala is just helping your body get into the position it needs to so that it can fix itself, basically, is what I heard you say. Is that right?
Yeah, essentially, yes. It allows the circulation so it can repair. Right, exactly. So your body repairs itself. Right. Restoring circulation, that's key.
That condition, I have not heard of it. It's one of those things I kind of wonder if I wish I never knew about it. It's like, uh-oh, I hope I don't get that.
That's called medical student syndrome.
Yeah, it might be, you might want to do like a screenshot or maybe show people what that is visually, if you're able to quick. Like bring up that picture that you sent over text, Leslie, possibly, so people know what we're talking about here.
Yep. Well, this is kind of a black and white looking picture here. 1 second. But I do like the way that you describe that, though. You can see how it just kind of fell. And that's what this picture is showing as well. If I can get it to work. Well, here we go.
It's kind of like the bottom of or the arch of your foot collapses and goes the wrong way.
Well, it's trying to show me an ad also, but actually here is a pretty, this is someone who has Charcot foot with neuropathy. So this is pretty, I hope you can see that, kind of getting a reflection, but that would be an example of, I think, a pretty extreme version. And then, I don't know if you're able to see that real well. But I was also thinking about this too. You can kind of see on the top. Let's see. There you go. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at too.
That's the same one. So, yeah. See how it's just falling down? Yeah.
Well, and I was also thinking too, like after I had a knee injury, when one part of your body isn't working well, all of the other pieces start to get some pain as well. Like even my hips would get really sore because the way that I walked wasn't normal. And I just can't imagine all of the other things that start to happen when this happens.
Yeah, and that is an issue because as people start shifting their weight to another joint, for example, then they wear out a different joint, and that kind of thing happens, especially like with knees and hips and ankles.
Very interesting. Okay, this is good stuff.
So does this condition, does it typically happen in both feet at the same time, or one foot, or what do you say?
Rarely both feet. It's usually just one foot. But of course, after one foot, you're using the other foot more, and so you can have the same issue there too, that you're doing damage and not repairing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Joe's
Is there anybody on the call that has experienced that?
I'm sorry, I didn't get all that. Say it again.
I think he's cutting out a little bit, but I think what he's
wondering
asking.
if any comments have come in.
I think he's asking if anyone on the call has had this happen to them. Hopefully I'm not cutting out now too, but someone, so MC commented here, I have had flat feet forever. How is this different?
Oh, flat feet is different because when you have flat feet, it's true that you don't have that the ligament across there that's flattened out. However, with flat feet, your joints, all of those joints, the talus, the calcaneus, all the ankle joints are in the right place. They're where they're supposed to be. They're just in a different position. Whereas with the Charcot joint, you actually move the joints out of place. So you've lost the function of the foot as well. With a flat foot, you still have function of the foot. It's not as ideal as having the correct ankles and foot structure, but the flat foot still has the joints in place, whereas the Charcot joint, it actually pushes out of place.
Wow. Okay. And Alan is asking, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say the ligaments actually tear. You actually, you lose, you tear a little bit. Pretty soon it just doesn't hold it anymore and it tears.
Wow. Alan is asking if the Charcot joint is a result of neuropathy.
Okay. They often say that because they come together. They're associated, but it's not causational. So the causal effect is the ligaments are very weak, and they're weak because they're not repairing, as they don't have good blood supply. And guess what happens to nerves when they don't have good blood supply? Well, they quit working too. So when you don't have good blood supply, you have both the problem of the ligaments tearing and the problem of the neuropathy. So for a long time, doctors and researchers were saying that, well, we think the neuropathy causes the Charcot joint, but that turns out that that's not the case. That there is an association, but one does not cause the other. They just come together for the same reasons.
Okay.
Good question.
KM is asking, will one's balance be affected first?
There's a couple of issues with balance. One is the vestibular system in the ears. That is your balance, as far as like if you've ever had vertigo, that's where that comes from. And that's what, if you close your eyes and it tells you, if you're leaning this way, you're leaning that way. How do you know that? Well, you have the vestibular system in your ears to tell you where you are in space. So that's one part of balance. There's another part of balance that is your feet telling you that you're balanced. And those are called proprioceptive nerves. They're the nerves that tell you you're moving. You're moving this way. You're moving that way. There's more pressure here, more pressure there. And so you can stay upright even when you're on, like I was out on a paddleboard on the lake today, and a speedboat drives by, you know, with a skier behind it and makes this huge wake. And my paddleboard, I'm standing up on this paddleboard and it's going like this, right? How do I know how to keep myself upright? Well, a lot of that is the proprioceptive nerves in the feet. The pressure nerves in the feet tell me that I'm moving this way or moving that way. So in that case with Charcot joint, it's not the Charcot foot that causes it. It's the neuropathy. If your nerves aren't working right, yes, you can lose your balance very easily. You could be falling down and not realize it because you don't have the nerves in your feet aren't telling you, hey, we're moving here.
Okay, good information. Alan is also kind of wondering, what is neuropathy in general? Okay,
neuropathy means literally, it just means a problem with the nerves. And it's not specific to any type of problem with the nerves. So there's inflammatory neuropathy and infectious neuropathy, and then diabetic neuropathy. So there's all these different types of neuropathy, but really we're just saying the nerves aren't working right.
Okay. So one of the things that we talk about a lot on our webinar is the diabetes solution kit, which I will show you here. And so you'll see some people who are asking questions, talking about phase 1, phase 2, this is where I'm at, what should I do? A lot of our questions will relate to this. And so if you're not familiar with this, this is basically what Dr. Saunders prescribes to his patients that come into his office. And so you're getting this for significantly less than what it costs to go visit him. And it can be found at bartonwebinar.com, and I will post that link. But when people ask questions about the diabetes solution kit, that is what this is. You can get the hard copy, or you can get this in a downloadable form if you want it right away because you're ready to get started, which is what you should do. But we've had a lot of people who have had a lot of success with this. So some of these questions will be relating to that. And that's what Dr. Saunders recommends for reversing your type 2. So I'm going to go through some more of these questions. I actually had a couple of emails that came in. Let's see if I can find these quick. So Doris and Sheldon, I had a chat with them one day. They shared their success story with me, and it was awesome. If you're interested in doing that, I would love to chat with you guys. Leslie at bartonpublishing.com. We can just chat just like this, except without all of the other people on. It'll just be us, and we can talk about kind of your journey. And I'd love to hear about it. So feel free to email me. But Sheldon and Doris have been told that their cholesterol levels are too high and that they may need to be on the drug atorvastatin to take care of it.
Atorvastatin.
Oh, so close.
So
all right.
Close.
And they said, I remember in a webinar recently when Dr. Saunders mentioned that we can never have too much cholesterol and that our brains need it. Could you maybe address this again in a future webinar? So here we are.
Okay. Can I address it right now?
Yep.
And that is, I don't want you to get the idea that you can never have too much cholesterol. There is a too much for cholesterol. And but the ideal level is about 220. So between 210, 250, that range is where you have the best lifespan, health span, brain function, all of that. As you start going higher than 250, then you lose that benefit, and you start getting more possibilities of getting vascular disease and other issues. So there is an ideal, there is a perfect place to be, and that would be right around 220. And then too little, you actually increase the death rate by having low cholesterol is not good for you at all. And high cholesterol is not as bad, but still a problem. So don't think that you can never have too much. But remember that the numbers that they give you, that they say you have too much, are made by a marketing department. It's not something that that researchers or science, those aren't scientists. They're just marketing products to tell you, oh, if we say that ideal is lower, then more people will take our drug. That's the idea. So look for a number of 220. That's where you want to be. And if you're less than 200, then you go, how do I get my cholesterol up? That's something maybe we could talk about in another segment.
What is the normal number that, like, you know, if we were to go get our cholesterol checked, that they would consider to, like, if I went to the doctor's office, what would they say is a high number there?
Anything over 200.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next question is from Juan. He is asking about Cinechroma. This is another one of our supplements, probably our most popular supplement, I think. I don't even know. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yes, it is. Yes,
okay.
It is.
So this has chromium, vitamin D, vitamin K2, selenium, vanadium, cinnamon bark extract. You see how well I pronounce those, guys? I've had to say those a lot.
Very good. Very good.
Selenium. I mean, yeah. So anyway, there are a few words I do know. But this is a question concerning this. So it says, please let me know if I can take Cinechroma more than once. Oh, I clicked off of it. More than once per day. Juan would like to take these with every meal, and he's wondering how you feel about that.
Okay, so you don't need to take it with every meal. That's not what it is. Okay, so that's a great question, actually, because what you want to know is, why are you taking that? And the reason you're taking that is because it's partly because of me. I tested thousands of people with diabetes over the years.
We'll never know what he said after that.
A lot of common denominator chromium. Low chromium is a common problem. And guess what chromium's needed for using blood sugar properly. So in order to have insulin sensitivity, you need chromium. And so if you're not having enough, if you're not getting enough chromium, that's a good thing to take. Selenium, another common deficiency. Vanadium, vitamin D. I have tested thousands of people with vitamin D, and less than 10 people have normal vitamin D levels without taking a supplement. So, and then we need vitamin K so that you don't just absorb calcium and deposit it in your arteries and harden your arteries. So you need the vitamin K to get it in your bones. So we put together this like very cool, perfect supplement for people who have type 2, because vitamin D makes you more sensitive to insulin. And these are common, the common deficiencies are addressed by this. Now, it's not a drug. It's not something like, oh, if I take this, my blood sugar is going to go down and I'm going to be better. That's not what this is all about. This is about restoring what your body needs, the nutrients your body needs, so that you can get normal blood sugar levels when you're doing the phase 1 of the program. Because if you're doing phase 1 and you're, let's say, deficient in chromium, you may not get normal levels of blood sugar because you can't use blood sugar properly because you don't have enough chromium for the enzymes that do that. So it's to help you get normal levels. So you don't need to take it 3 times a day. Now, having said that, some people have found that taking it twice a day, breakfast and lunch, breakfast and dinner, is more beneficial. And you wouldn't need to do that forever. Once you get to a normal blood sugar level, then you could go back on it. And part of the reason for that is we put the cinnamon extract in there, and the cinnamon extract helps you kind of more immediately be more sensitive to your insulin, so you can keep the insulin down and get better insulin sensitivity. So that's the way the system works.
Awesome. I've mentioned this one other time, but when I first started with Barton Publishing way back, I remember Dr. Saunders talking to us about how important it was to have each of these supplements. And so a whole bunch of people on our team were out there, we were out there buying, here's my bottle of selenium, here's my bottle of chromium, here's my bottle, like all of these. And so we did that for years. We took those. And now we got this nice little perfect bottle, so much less expensive than all of the money I was spending on all of those. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, I don't have diabetes and I take it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think pretty much everyone on our team does.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question from, oh no, this might be, is this my friend that I always say his name wrong? Oh no, he's been gone for a while and I'm gonna do it. All right, Stefan, Steven. This might not be him, but why does blood sugar go way up with surgery? Great question.
Oh, great question. Okay, there's a couple reasons why that would happen. One is stress. When you have a lot of stress, you release cortisol. Cortisol makes you resistant to insulin so that your blood sugar stays high. And that is, there's a purpose for that. And that is to maintain a high enough blood sugar energy level for your heart and brain to work in an emergency situation. So when you have that stress, it's supposed to be that way. It's like a beautiful system to keep your blood sugar up for your brain so you can get out of a bad situation, even if you have low blood sugar, for example, or other issues. Now, number two, very often with surgery, the surgeons will give cortisone of some kind, dexamethasone or whatever, some kind of cortisone, to decrease inflammation, to stop swelling from happening in the surgery. And there again, that's going to make you resistant to insulin. Your blood sugar is going to go up. So the two different reasons why surgery can get it up really high and keep it up for a long time.
Good question. Thank you. Tom is asking, I'm a diabetic and my morning blood sugar readings have been dropping under 100 into the 80s and 70s. A couple days ago, I woke up to a 65 and retest of 67. Is this something I should be concerned about? How should I handle it in the future?
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. You don't have to handle normal. That's really good. Okay, so the optimum place to be is between 70 and 90. Getting into the 60s sometimes is actually amazing. That's really good for you. Why? Well, we've talked about that, how the blood-brain barrier has proteins in it that pull the sugar into the brain. And if your blood sugar is always high, over 100 or whatever, then you tend to have you get fewer and fewer of those proteins, so that you get less and less energy sugar into your brain. Well, when your blood sugar drops lower, like below 70, then you start making more of those proteins, so you get better brain function and you won't get Alzheimer's disease. So actually everything that you've said there is a perfect. It's right on. That's where you should be.
Awesome. That's always fun to hear from the doc, isn't it? I think so. And he didn't even have to tell you to fast. That's always what I'm afraid he's going to tell me.
See everybody.
Ugh. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Joyce, feel free to ask your question. We were actually talking about Charcot foot today. I almost want to say charcoal. Anyway, and yeah, if your journey is about type 2, feel free to ask your question. Okay. Is gabapentin good for nerve pain?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes. Gabapentin is often used for nerve pain. Okay, so neuropathy, the things that we start off with or deal with when it gets bad and you don't have any sensation, when the nerves aren't working, then that sensory input is lost. In other words, it's like blocked, and so the impulse in the nerve doesn't get through, so you have numbness. and loss of function and loss of sensation, right? And that's what we've mostly been talking about. But when neuropathy first starts, you get tingling or pins and needles, and there can be pain. So neuropathy, that kind of neuropathy is like too much impulses going through the nerves, and because the sensors themselves are being affected. So in that kind of a case, Neurontin is often used, gabapentin, and that is something that slows down the nerve impulses. It's been used for like epilepsy, so people don't get seizures, right? Because it slows down nerve impulses, and it can help with that kind of pain. Having said that, the answer is to your question is yes. However, it doesn't repair the nerve, so it doesn't stop you from getting worse and worse and worse, and then getting neuropathy and infections and Charcot foot and all those issues. What you need is to improve the circulation so that you can repair the nerves so that they function right, and then you don't have pain anymore. That's a better way to go.
Awesome. Okay. Have you heard whether cool sculpting works?
Oh, cool sculpting works really well. Actually, one of my cousins does it. And here's the problem that I've seen. So over time, so at first when it's done, it's great because what they're doing is they're putting liquid nitrogen through and they're freezing the fat in specific areas. So they put a cannula in, they put liquid nitrogen in there, and it freezes it. And then freezing the fat causes the cells to die, and then your body reabsorbs the fat and moves it somewhere else. And so that's what the sculpting part is you're taking the fat out of here and putting it here, kind of thing. And that's pretty much what my patients over long term have found out. They go, yeah, but now I have a bunch of fat here, and now my body's kind of weird looking because I have extra fat here and less fat here. So I don't know. The answer to your question is yes, it works. But I still don't think it's a long-term solution. I think, phase one, you're gonna start burning fat like crazy, and that's a better way to go.
Okay. Lars is here and says, I have type 2 diabetes, and I've heard that metformin has a lot of side effects that aren't good for my body. I have good control over my blood sugar, but I'm still worried about the side effects. I have two questions. One, do you have some natural alternatives? And two, I'm from Norway and sometimes have problems when we take some products abroad because of the food safety, and I think it's shipping and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is it possible to get products from us? First,
I don't
the
know.
diabetes solution kit, you can download that real easily. So you definitely would be able to do that.
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty sure supplements are delivered all over pretty much without problem. It just takes a little bit longer, and every once in a blue moon there might be some sort of a customs issue, but for the most part we can ship them anywhere.
And a good place to go if you want to check that out, check out what the options are. You can go to Barton Nutrition. Actually, is the diabetes solution kit on Barton Nutrition? I'm assuming it is.
Nope, not there, but it's bartonwebinar.com or bartonpublishing.com.
Okay. So why don't you go to bartonwebinar.com? In fact, I think I was going to type that in here anyway. That's a great place. Kind of links all of the things that we do. You'll find a link to our webinars, our past webinars. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. All of these webinars, all 151 that we've done, are on that YouTube channel. So it's just a great resource. You'll also find a link then to all of our supplements, all of our the diabetes solution kit, and lots of other good things. So that is a really good place to go. So bartonwebinar.com. Thanks for your question, Lars. Let's see here. Let's do another one. Sue says, good morning, amazing friends. Thank you for these wonderful calls. Sue is in Arizona and is wondering how Nervala might compare to the over-the-counter homeopathic nerve fix. I've been taking this for years instead of a more traditional prescription, high-level vitamin B medicine that didn't do much.
Okay, so nerve fix is it's homeopathic, which means it uses anyway. The point is, it works very differently. So you could take Nervala and nerve fix at the same time. It's not an either or situation. And Nervala can still be helpful because it can still improve the circulation, repair the nerves, and lower inflammation. So it can still be useful.
Okay, I'm taking notes here. There we go. All right. Okay, Tom says, if you were on a statin, which I am, is there a supplement that's a great alternative to the statin?
Okay, so the first question I have is, it's important that you know why you're on a statin. If you're on a statin because your cholesterol was 200, then that's not a good reason to be on a statin. If you're on a statin because your cholesterol is 150 and you have diabetes, because the marketing company for statins is now saying that everybody with diabetes should be on a statin no matter what their cholesterol is. So why you're on a statin is the thing that's the most important to you, because if you don't know why, then you don't know what to do about it. So if you're on a statin because you have familial hypercholesterolemia and your cholesterol is 600 and your arteries are getting clogged up, you know what? I have put 2 people in 30 years of practice. I have put 2 people on statins and say, you just have to be on a statin. And so it's not that nobody should ever be on a statin. It's that you have to know why. And so you know what to do about what the problem is and whether a statin is really appropriate or not. And so then the second part of your question is there anything besides a statin? And the answer really is no, because if you look at the optimum level of cholesterol for the longest lived, for keeping your brain function, for keeping everything functioning right, repairing cells, the optimum place to be is 220. And so you may not want to do anything to lower cholesterol.
Okay. We haven't talked about this in a while, but what is the normal vitamin D level?
Yeah, normal vitamin D level is between, well, they say 30 to 100. The ideal level is somewhere around 50, 60, up to 100. I have people who like to stay at 100 because they're worried about getting COVID, and a higher vitamin D level does improve the immune function, as opposed to the lower vitamin D levels are really for absorbing calcium and all of that. And so, but vitamin D has multiple effects on the body. So yeah, the optimum level is somewhere 50, 60 to 100, depending on, now your lab, there's 2 different ways to measure it. So your lab should give you a normal there too.
Okay. Kim was asking, will COVID cause blood sugar to increase?
Yes, any stressor, any illness. We talked about surgery earlier. Anything that stresses your body and causes more adrenal hormones, stress hormones, will make your blood sugar go up.
All right, another good question. Okay. Let's see. Joyce says, I am on week 3 of phase 1 and my numbers are hovering low 100s. 80% is 125 or less, but I still spike once I wake up. The level goes over 150 usually, but never above 180. How do I get my fasting level down? I'm overweight. Can it be that? Or am I not doing the program correctly? Can't seem to get my numbers under 100 still during the day. It hovers in the low 100s. Please help. I am losing with the program, so the weight is slowly coming down.
Well, it sounds like since you are losing weight, I think part of that is just it's a process. But just being overweight isn't the real reason. There's more going on, and it's usually hormones, things like insulin resistance, for example. So it's not enough just to say, because I'm overweight, my blood sugar's high. That's not the right answer. So there are other things that you can think about. One of them is to consider eating fewer times in the day, because every time we eat, we make insulin, and that can cause us to have more insulin resistance. The blood sugar goes up each time you eat. And so if you don't eat anything, if you just say have 2 meals a day, you may find that having that space between meals with an empty stomach shuts down the insulin and allows your blood sugar to come down to normal. It allows you to be more insulin sensitive for your blood sugar to come down to normal.
All right. We're going to run out of time. I already know it, but we'll do this quickly. Great questions, you guys. Someone was asking about the kidneys, and we actually did talk about the kidneys on episode 104. So if you want to go to bartonwebinar.com, you'll see a link to our past webinars, and you'll be able to get to that episode. Okay, 104, we talk about the kidneys. Another good question here, does B complex help with nerve damage?
It can, but only if that's the reason for it. So for example, some people have nerve damage because they're vitamin B12 deficient, or vitamin B9, which is folic acid. Those are two common, fairly common deficiencies that can cause neuropathy as well. So in that case, a B complex that contains that will help the problem. But it's a different reason. It's an energy production problem. It's not like the blood flow, like we were talking about before with neuropathy and the Charcot joint, the diabetic neuropathy. But yes, it's important to have enough of those. So I usually recommend a B complex.
Okay. Tom says I have severe constipation, and the only thing that I found is Miralax, 2 tablespoons. I take every day, and that works for me. But what is your best recommendation?
Okay. Yeah. So Miralax, I see it as something that I use it for emergencies in the nursing home, for example. Older people that are constipated and we're worried about them getting an obstruction, a bowel obstruction from constipation, because when they can't pass it, oh my gosh, I've had people have to have surgery to remove constipation, right? It's a terrible thing. So if there's worry, that Miralax, yeah, I have a purpose for Miralax. It's an alcohol, and it prevents the absorption of certain fat-soluble vitamins, for example. It's not a good long-term solution. It is actually toxic to the liver, but it will tell you that it's not absorbed. And generally, that's right, it's not absorbed. But if you happen to have leaky gut, then it is absorbed, and then it goes to your liver, and your liver has to detoxify it, and it's quite toxic. So I don't recommend it on a regular basis. I think if you used it occasionally, my best recommendation would be fiber greens. Fiber is wonderful. Fiber, and you know, if 1 teaspoon of fiber doesn't work, then try 2 teaspoons. If that doesn't work, try 3, try 4. Because as you go up on the dose, all you're doing is improving the intestinal bacteria anyway. And so you don't have a limit to how much you can use. And you know, I'm not a big fan of taking pills or supplements or anything like that, actually, in spite of me. But but so if you eat a very high fiber diet, if everything you eat has fiber in it, fruit, vegetables, nuts and seeds, beans, peas, lentils, then and that's what you live on, then you'll find you'll have normal bowel movements and you won't even need those laxatives.
All right. So many questions, you guys. These are good. Velo and Barbie Garcia. We're just wanting to chat a little bit about fasting. When you are fasting, is it okay to drink tea and coffee?
The word fasting literally means empty stomach. So that means nothing goes in your mouth. People ask me often, well, does it break the fast if I have water? Well, yes, it does. But for heaven's sakes, if you're fasting and you need water, then you need water. The problem with tea and coffee when you're fasting is it tends to, they're called wateretics, like diuretics. They get rid of extra water, so you tend to get dehydrated more easily. So I usually recommend while you're fasting, don't have the tea and coffee. I've had people tell me, "Oh, I get a bad headache." I said, "Well, that's a good detox then. That's your cleanse from the caffeine." But some people, need it. So, okay, fine. Yeah, that's okay. As long as you're not putting sugar. In fact, I had somebody quit drinking coffee altogether because while he was fasting, I said, okay, you can drink your coffee, but no sugar, no creamer, and so he started drinking black coffee. He says, I hate it. So he just quit drinking coffee entirely. Anyway, so the answer to your question is, yes, you could, but does it break the fast? Well, yes, it does, but it empties out pretty quickly out of the stomach.
We're getting a lot of questions about cholesterol. We might need to do another webinar on that. Let's see, if normal level of total cholesterol is around 220, then what parameters of fat metabolism should one be concerned with to avoid heart disease?
Oh, good question. Okay. So there are essential fatty acids that you need. They're called omega-6, omega-3, omega-9. These fatty acids you can't make in your body. So the essentials of fat metabolism is getting enough of those. And then the cholesterol is not even really fat. It's a lipoprotein. It's really a protein with a lipid attached to it. And then it's the proteins that hold on to lipids, so to speak, to deliver them to different places. That's really what it is. And then cholesterol itself is a type of lipid that is stabilizing. It stabilizes the membranes in your body. It keeps the nerves functioning properly. As far as how to regulate the lipid metabolism, guess what? If you eat good food, you don't have to regulate any lipid metabolism. You don't have to even think about how much omega-3, omega-6, omega-9 you're getting necessarily. Some people do, but most people, if you knew that, like salads and greens and lettuce, they have omega-3 fats in them, and you don't have to even eat fish oil for that matter. And then if you have fish occasionally, that's a good thing too. And then you're not using like soy oil, canola oil, corn oil that has an excessive amount of omega-6. But you're eating nuts and seeds, and walnuts have really good omega-3. So if you're eating a variety of food, your fat metabolism is going to be perfect.
Awesome. Here is a great question from Olive, since you were talking about supplements. If I take all of your diabetes supplements, is that sufficient, or is there something else as well?
Okay. My advice would be don't take the supplements. Just do phase 1. Because that is sufficient. The supplements are to help you with phase 1. That's really what it is. If you have inflammation, well, turmeric BP is a good choice. If you have issues with magnesium, then you may need a magnesium spray if you have like diarrhea from taking magnesium. If you have type 2, then it's a good idea. The Synachroma has like everything in it to make sure that your enzymes are functioning properly so that you can get good on phase 1. So the point of treatment is the diet. It's what you're eating. It's detoxing, it's cleansing. That's the point. The supplements, that's just adding more in, and are for many people less important. For some people, really important, but we don't know who's who. So like kind of recommend it for everybody.
Another good question here from Steve. Does type 2 make you more susceptible to gout?
Let's see. Gout is increased uric acid. I can't think of any studies that specifically, Charcot joint increased with type 2, but I don't think gout does. I don't think there may be an association, but I'm not familiar. I can't think of any research that I've read about gout being more than just associated with type 2.
Okay. We have a question here that says, does metformin cause cancer?
Well, probably not. So here's the idea with metformin and cancer. Metformin blocks the cell's ability to use glucose, right? And so if you have diabetes and all you can use is glucose, then metformin blocks that cell's ability to use glucose, and the cell goes, oh no, we can't use glucose, we'll have to use fat. So it kind of forces or pushes your cells into using fat for energy. Well, guess what? Cancer cells, most cancer cells can only use glucose. They really don't have the option of using fat for energy as far as an ongoing energy source. So metformin is used to treat cancer, prevent cancer, because of that glucose blocking effect, where cancer cells can die because if their glucose is blocked, they can't use fat, so they have no energy source and they shrivel up and die. So I don't know of any studies that show metformin causes cancer, and I know of several studies that show metformin as a benefit in those being treated for cancer.
Okay. Someone is asking about getting lower blood sugar numbers in the morning. And because we're running out of time, I'm just going to let you know that at bartonwebinar.com, Dr. Saunders answers our top 10 questions, and that is one of them. And so I'm just going to have you go to bartonwebinar.com and he will chat about that.
Hey, I'm on vacation. I can go overtime.
Oh, so, you can. Okay, well, go ahead. You can tell us. You can tell us.
Wait, what was the question?
Okay. David says, how can I get my blood sugar level lower in the morning when I wake up? Blood sugar gets lower during the day and evening.
Yeah, that's the frequently asked question. Okay, and it's good to address that periodically again. So blood sugar in the morning is often related to what your liver is putting out. So your liver's making sugar because your stomach's empty, right? And so you stop absorbing sugar, and your sugar level drops down, and then the pancreas says, "Hey, we need more sugar." So it sends glucagon to the liver to tell it to make more sugar. So your blood sugar actually goes up in the morning, and you're like, "What the heck? I didn't eat dinner last night, and my blood sugar last night was 90, and then this morning it's 120. What the heck, Well, that's just a normal process of keeping the blood sugar in a certain range, and it also does give you an idea that you're still insulin resistant if your blood sugar is going up over 100 with that process. So you want to reset that from your 120 level, bring it down to the 70 to 90 level. And so staying on phase 1 is the best thing to do for that.
All right. We got a question here. This was emailed and it says, hello, Leslie, my mom passed on one of your webinars to me. We are dealing with sugar issues with our 12-year-old daughter. We can control her numbers with food and eating well right now, but I was wondering if your supplements would benefit her. She's not been diagnosed with type 1, although she is borderline. We praise God that we're able to keep her well right now with a lot of prayer and with real food and supporting her body. We follow a plan called Trim Healthy Mama and have for 10 years. We are taking multigrains and a few other supplements, but any other suggestions would be so appreciated.
Yeah, I think, basic synochroma, you know what, it's so common to have a chromium deficiency and that leads to insulin resistance very easily. So I think adding synochroma would be a good idea. And for a young person, the Nervala would actually be an improvement to prevent problems with circulation in the future. So not as a permanent thing, but at least temporarily until the blood sugar is normal and everything else is normal. And then, following the program. And if you're doing phase 1, that should work really well.
All right. Okay, good stuff. Let's see. We'll do a couple more questions here. Oh, there's so many. Okay, we've talked about this quite a few times. I don't know if Fiber Greens is available yet, but actually, it is not available yet. It's not available yet. It's been sold out. And they're working hard on getting the proper ingredients. I think there was
there was a problem with getting one from Southeast Asia or something. I don't know what it was.
They're very, very picky about good quality ingredients. And I think even something maybe came in and didn't pass the test or something. So
yeah.
Let's see. What do you know about cholesterol, Zetia, and Nexletol? They are treatments for cholesterol.
Yes. And they're fibers, and they're okay. I don't, unless somebody has like clogged arteries or some issue with that. The ideal thing to do is, instead of using those, to use to just get a lot of fiber in your diet, like eat food that has a lot of fiber in it, broccoli and carrots and spinach and kale, and just have a lot of things with fiber in them. And then a wide variety of fiber is better. So when you're taking just one type that binds to cholesterol, bile acids in your intestines, then you don't absorb fat very well, fat soluble vitamins and that kind of thing. So you're better off just getting a lot of fiber in your diet.
Okay. Okay, last question. I have the greens. I've been taking, so this is the person who's been taking Miralax. They've been taking 1 scoop daily of the greens with the Miralax. Is it okay to do that? And I plan to increase to 3 scoops. I want to get away from Miralax altogether.
Yay! Okay, I like your plan. That's a great plan. Yes, you can take them together. The worst that could happen is you can get diarrhea, but so what? Just stop taking it, and then you won't have diarrhea anymore. Then you can get off the Miralax sooner. Yeah, no problem.
Okay,
no problem.
Awesome. And I lied. One more question. We talk about this a lot. Is berberine a good substitute for metformin? Okay.
I think it is. It actually works a little differently than metformin. It's not toxic to the mitochondria like metformin is. And metformin's, got a lot of experience. It's pretty safe. Occasional rare liver issues. But berberine is like super safe. So I think it would be a good choice if you're going to get off metformin to say, hey, I'll just take berberine. It works.
Okay, awesome. We still have quite a few questions, guys. Come back next week, ask questions. Hopefully we'll be able to get through some more of these. And Dr. Saunders, thank you so much. Enjoy your vacation.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.